Last Week Tonight with John Oliver Season 12 Episode 20 opens with John's signature blend of sharp wit and biting satire, welcoming viewers to another week of news, chaos, and comedy. The episode kicks off with a rundown of recent headlines: wildfires in California, Major League Baseball's first female umpire, and a bizarre moment with President Trump on the White House roof. John immediately sets the tone, poking fun at the absurdity of the administration and the media's attempts to keep up with the constant stream of weirdness. The main story this week is immigration enforcement, and John dives in with a mix of humor and outrage. He highlights the surge in armed, mass police raids across farms, parks, and Home Depots, and the White House's social media posts cheering on these actions. John mocks the administration's meme game, especially the DEI meme, "Deport every illegal," and the use of "na na 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 hey 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 goodbye" as a soundtrack for deportations. He calls out the pettiness and cruelty, joking about what song he'd want played at Trump's funeral, and the ease of sneaking a Bluetooth speaker into the event. John then turns to a regional Border Patrol office's celebration video, which bizarrely uses Darth Vader as a symbol of their agents. He points out the moral bankruptcy of identifying with the most famous villain in cinematic history, especially when the video shows Vader murdering people who are begging for help. The segment is classic Oliver, funny but also deeply critical of the way law enforcement agencies are branding themselves. The episode moves into the reality behind the administration's claims about targeting dangerous criminals. John exposes the gap between rhetoric and reality, showing that most IC arrests are not of violent offenders but of people with civil immigration violations, including traffic infractions and even U.S. citizens. He shares stories of community members like Enrique the Ice Cream Man, who was taken into custody after selling treats for 20 years, and others who were detained simply for eyeballing agents or being in the wrong place at the wrong time. John explains the administration's goal of 1 million deportations in a year, more than double the previous record, and how this has led to a massive expansion of enforcement, deputizing local police, pulling in Border Patrol, the National Guard, the DEA, and even the Postal Inspection Service. He jokes about the absurdity of being arrested by the mail and the consequences of reallocating resources away from serious crimes like drug trafficking and child exploitation. The show highlights the tactics used to boost arrest numbers, including targeting people at immigration court hearings and using expedited removal to deport people without a hearing. John calls out the administration's efforts to end temporary legal protections for immigrants from countries like Afghanistan, Haiti, and Venezuela, putting nearly 1 million people at risk of deportation. John also addresses the use of masks by federal agents, explaining that there's no law against it and that the administration claims it's for agent safety. He points out the broad definition of violence used by officials, which includes everything from videotaping agents to throwing Molotov cocktails. The segment is both hilarious and disturbing, as John shows how these policies make everyone less safe, including the agents themselves. The episode features real stories of U.S. citizens being detained by immigration enforcement, including a man tackled and taken into custody while filming an ICE raid. John emphasizes the importance of recording these interactions and knowing your rights, offering practical advice for viewers who witness or experience immigration enforcement actions. In the final segment, John shifts gears to poke fun at Senator Chuck Schumer's imaginary friends, the Baileys, a fictional middle-class couple from Long Island who have supposedly guided Schumer's political life. John hilariously breaks down the absurd level of detail Schumer has given the Baileys, from their salaries and sex life to their favorite Chinese dishes and voting history. He points out that the Baileys don't actually exist, and that tailoring policies to imaginary voters can pull politicians away from their real base. The episode ends with a satirical message from the Baileys, played by actors, who roast Schumer for obsessing over them and reveal themselves as super Republicans who stormed the Capitol and hate Kung Pao chicken. The bit is a perfect example of John Oliver's ability to blend comedy with pointed political critique, urging politicians to talk to a broader range of real people instead of relying on imaginary archetypes. John wraps up the show with a reminder that supporting immigrants is the majority stance in America, and that the right-wing narrative about crime and punishment is not supported by the facts. He encourages viewers to stay informed, record interactions with enforcement agencies, and remember that most people swept up in these raids are not criminals but ordinary community members. If you haven't watched Last Week Tonight S12E20 yet, this episode is a masterclass in news satire, blending humor, investigative reporting, and political analysis in a way that's both entertaining and thought-provoking. John Oliver's take on immigration enforcement, masked agents, and political imaginary friends is a must-watch for anyone interested in current events, media, and comedy.